Tian, what's up? You're next. And you play out of Boston Harbor Encore, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, cool. All right. Yeah, is this 2-5 or 5-10? I don't remember
This,
exactly.
this is 2-5. I mean, I'm sorry, 5-10, 5-10,
5-10,
20.
okay. So
The
there's
Stroud
a 25, what is it, 500 to 2K buy-in at
2K,
Encore?
2K cap. Yeah, yeah,
All right, Boston
yeah.
2K. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the Strato was on the whole time. The Strato has been on very frequently lately, so
Yeah.
um and I think it's so the hand is between me and a pretty strong player in the room.
Okay.
Um and we I think we roughly had about 3,500, maybe a little bit more. Um
And you said this hand is straddled or not?
it's Strato, yeah.
All right, so right around 3,500 effective straddle pot. Okay.
So he's in a low jack and he opens to 50. So 50 has been the standard open on a Strato
Mm-hmm.
setup.
Okay.
And then I go ahead and three bet to 175 in the cutoff with ace of spades and ace of heart.
So ace of spades, ace of
Yeah.
hearts, 3-bet to 175. Okay.
Um,
I mean, not, it's fine. I mean, obviously it's over 3x, right? I'm just trying to think like 5, 10, 20, you're playing just under 200. So you might want to bring this one up just a little bit to get more money in there. But okay, so you go to 175.
yeah, I'm actually playing around with the sizing a little bit. Like I feel like in a 200 big game, I would in a 100 big game, I would try to size it up to get so that I can get all the money in. But then in a 200 big game, it's a little bit tougher to get the money in. So
Hmm. I don't know. Sometimes I think about that in a different way where it's like I'm trying to get as much money in as possible, and you could get away with going 175 at 100 BBs because you could get the money all in, right? With just three bets left.
but
But
then what about all your light three bets? I mean, when you side,
I mean, I would say usually I do tend to make my three bets the sizing somewhat consistent, but you don't always have to. I mean, there can be different reasons why. I mean, there's situations where you just think a guy's never going to fold to a three bet, so you size up, right, for value. You know, there are other situations where the stack sizes will dictate that it becomes very polar, where you're either going to get it all in or going to fold, and that might dictate sizing it up to like that threshold amount too. So it kind of all depends.
so you're saying I could go a little bit bigger too.
I would tend to go a little bit bigger, but it's just a subtle thing. So you go to 175, okay.
So he calls. He's been so that night I was sitting to his left, to his left. So he was folding a bunch to my three bets, and he finally defends this one time. So I figure he's got to have a strong hand. Um, and flop comes queen 6-4. So queen of clubs,
Mm-hmm.
six of spades, and four of clubs.
All right, so front door flush draw. You don't. So it's queen of clubs, six of spades, four of clubs. You got ace of spades, ace of hearts. Okay.
Right.
Pot's about
Yeah.
380, 385, something like that. Oh, actually, yeah, I think so.
Do you feel like a c bet is mandatory here in position?
Absolutely.
But like, why size up, right? Because he could have some sets. He could have.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's all. I mean, he can have sets on any board, right? If he's always gonna. If you're talking about going down where he's always opening and defending with any pair, then he can always have sets on boards on any board, right? So what you really the best boards for you are the ones where there's just no possibility of two pair, and situations where hands don't have that much equity against you. Like if someone had a Broadway flush draw, it would just be a dry flush draw here, right? You know what I'm saying? Like as opposed to like, Queen Jack 8 or something like that when you have aces. So usually like the three disconnected low card boards can go pretty large because your opponent's forced to defend. In single raise pots, when you get two Broadway boards that are connected on dry heavy boards, you tend to go large. It wouldn't surprise me if this is kind of a 1/3 range bet with almost every single hand here, I would say.
I wonder about that for a while.
Yeah,
But
I mean that's
go up
probably
there.
the most common sizing that you're going to get in an optimal setting. Does that mean that you can't go 2/3 with some hands? No, you can have more than fucking one sizing, right? This could be like a 75, 80% like 1/3, but then you've 25% of hands it's 2/3 or close to pot, and maybe aces is in there. I don't know if this specific combo, but I'm just saying, like, it's not always just one sizing, right?
I guess if you're targeting, you can target all the queen X, and then you can just go 2/3 because they.
It's really, but even if you were to go 2/3 here, I mean, it's really, I mean, is he just going to fold out sevens through jacks?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially with a club in it, you know?
Yeah.
So, so I assume check, right?
He checks. Check call 125.
So you bet 125. So you did take the very small sizing here.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of, I don't know if that played a role later on. Like, did it induce something? When he called though, he had this hesitation that I hadn't seen before. So I wasn't sure if he was trying to make a move then, or he was, maybe he was thinking about raising. I wasn't sure.
So 125 call. So now the pot is what, like 630? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A turn is when it got interesting. It's Queen of Diamond.
Okay. Now I will say here, I don't know. Actually, I do remember now what happened from your email, but I was just going to say, I meant to say this before you even told us what the turn was that if somehow like you check back the turn on some card that you don't like, whether it's front door clubs or, for example, like a queen here or something like that. I mean, obviously you have aces, but I keep trying to drill this into CLP subscribers' head that if you use small flop c-bet sizing, your opponent's going to end up with a much, much wider just volume of overall hands at the river, and you have to call down lighter at the end. So I don't know what's going to happen. Well, I do know what's going to happen. If the guy checked you, I assume you probably would have checked back, right?
I was against him. I was going to check back because I wanted to control a little bit more.
And then, like I said, like you're probably going to have to call down, on a brick if that were to happen. But I know that didn't happen, right? This guy leads or something.
So I didn't get to check back.
Yeah,
he leads 300, which is pretty large, right? Like
so, low jack leads 300, which is kind of interesting because you don't see this that much.
No,
we did a. So Nate helped me with a podcast a while back. I'll definitely make reference to it, content reference, and we'll link to it. We have a new area, actually, of the CLP website where we can put a lot of promo material in there. It's called Free. We literally just added it a few days ago, and it's specifically for this purpose, where I can take bits and pieces of content that I'm referencing and stick it there. And people that don't have subs can can listen to what I'm talking about. And it's just a little bit odd to have a check call leading range in a 3-bet pot. I want to say we covered it. Nate, you can confirm this in the live chat, though, a while back, maybe a couple of months ago, because usually you'll see these types of plays like in single raise pots. It's hard to balance from your opponent's perspective, not necessarily saying it's wrong. And obviously in a 3-bet pot, it would be much more likely that he should be leading on a top pair card as opposed to a middle pair card, which is where you usually see the leads come out of like single raise pots versus the big blind heads up, right? So, but I mean, obviously you're in a call, right?
Yeah, I didn't like it very much, but I had to call. I also talked to a couple of people that study a lot more than I do. They looked into the kind of like the chart of solver. There's like no leading.
Right, from this guy. That doesn't surprise me, right? In an optimal sense, right? Yeah.
Basically, the conclusion was that he was trying to exploit, but why? Like, what was he? So I actually had a feeling that he didn't want to miss
you checking back the turn.
Right, he didn't, because if I were him, I probably would be worried.
Right,
about
because you're going to check it back a lot. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Right,
I would want to get 3 streets of value.
Right,
from a guy that's likely to check back on this card.
Yeah.
And then it's also interesting because if you're talking about like a donk by a bad player, it's usually called button clicking, right? But from this guy, it's far from that, and I just felt like it was really tricky.
Now just throw something out. I'm not 100% sure on this in a 3-bet pot, but I do remember going over this topic, and sometimes you see, and again, it might have been single raise pot. There were some interesting outputs that we saw where the out of position gets to do some like protection leads. And again, it might be in single raise pots when the top pair pairs, like with a hand like 9s or 10s or something like that. Just throwing it out at you off the top of my head. I'm not saying that that's going to be present in a 3-bet pot. But okay, so you call, the pot's now 1230.
Right.
Yep.
River comes 6 of hearts.
Okay, well, so now the board's double paired. and it's one less hand really that you have to worry about, right? Like if he flopped sixes and played it, like you were saying, he didn't want to lose the value on the turn.
Yeah, I also don't see a lot of sets play this way
It has a
though.
check call lead. I agree with you. I tend to
Usually,
agree with you.
usually a queen or
Well, I mean, the only thing I would say about that is maybe he was planning, if he did have a set of sixes or fours, he could have been planning to check raise you turn, and then he, kind of changes it up because you're going to check through so much. You know what I
right.
mean? So, by the way, just on the flip side of this too, and again, more present in single raise pots, I saw some very, very good high level tournament players attempt to, like a guy like Stephen Chidwick would do this. He would check back almost his entire range on the turn, including trips here. Maybe he's got slivers of boat bets. Leaning towards the worst queens, like if he had queen 10, queen jack, he would check it back just because it's expected to get checked back so much in position. Again, usually these are setups in tournaments where it's like single raise, somebody in the field versus big blind. So it's not an insane situation for you to like check back a hand like queen 10, queen jack. Obviously that didn't happen. I just want to throw it out there. So river's a 6, queen 6-4, queen 6. Okay, and what happens now?
He leads 1,000.
1,000.
Yeah, almost pot.
And by the way, too, if you did have a weak queen here, I assume you would just call the lead, right?
Right, right.
Queen 10, queen jack.
Well, I mean, you.
If you 3-bet it pre, and the same thing went
I
down.
guess, what? Why? Because you're saying if I jam here, I'm only getting called by pocket sixes.
I just think that like with a queen 10, queen jack to kind of protect yourself, that you would do a lot of calling of the lead.
You mean on the turn?
On the turn, right?
Oh, yes.
The reason why I bring that up is because we're going to probably go down like an MDF road here at the end. So you might have some weak queens that are played this way. It's, if you're trying to look down at the, your class of hand, how does my hand
Also,
fit in?
he's actually, I don't know, he's repping a hand that's stronger than queen 10, right? I feel like in that case could be, he could have been bolted up already.
Yeah, I mean, this is one where it's like, I mean, it's almost kind of like a gutsy, we keep saying playing Fifth Street Chicken and stuff. Like, how much do you think this guy's exploiting you? Can you find some bluffs here? Would he ever turn fours full into a bluff that was ever played this way here? And usually not. If you sometimes might call with some ace highs on the turn that are still have, forceful being like a sliver of showdown value, I think we can probably take out the whole protection type bet with like nines, tens. This pot's getting big for that, especially when he bets 1,000.
I think he would check back the river unless he decided that his nines and tens are not good enough already. And when I called the turn, he just wanted to turn it into a bluff.
Yeah, I mean, he's betting close to pot. You probably need to defend down with 60-ish. You're not quite getting, 1.5 to what? Yeah, you're not quite getting. Well, I mean, you'd probably have to defend down with somewhere around 660-ish, maybe a little bit less, something like that, when he bets almost of the hands that you arrive here with. So,
I guess I mean you could argue this combination of aces are the ones that if you want to call with aces, this is the only combination you want to call with because you block ace queen suited.
if he didn't defend with ace queen off, you mean?
No, calling on the river, then this with aces, but not all aces, then this is the only combo of aces that I should be calling because
if he didn't defend with if he always defends with ace queen off, then it's not relevant. But if he's only calling with ace queen suited, then yeah, you mean you look at if you block the ones where he can't have ace queen suited. I mean, just go down the line and figure out like if he's a reasonable player, what hands is he defending with here to your 3-bet? Let's say that he's defending with let's just say he's defending with all ace queens, right? So you've got 4 combos of ace queens, right? King queen suited, it's going to go down the line, right? 2 of king queen suited, 2 of queen jack, so that's 6. So that's like 10 combos of the queen X. Maybe 1 combo of 6-6 if it's played that way. I mean, again, it's like how often is he playing these hands? And then you can look at it like that. Okay, he's got 10 value combos. How much is he actually playing like this? Maybe let's liberally give him 80% of the time he plays it like this. So it's like 8 combos. And then now you're getting 2.2 to 1. So can you find like 3 bluffs here, right? That's the ratio. So you can go down the MDF road, or you can look at it like a combos wise where I'm getting 2.2 to 1. If he's got 8 thick value can I find like 3 to 4 bluffs here, right? And the thing that I would say here that might, as I think through this one, because it's really close, I think you make a point where you might grasp here on the fact that you do block the ace queen suited, and I'll go back when it's close. You used such small sizing on the flop that this will sometimes induce a play that's a bluff here, as opposed to if you went 2/3 or full pot and he called and he check call lead, that would be lessened. So I think I would call here for those reasons, but it's close.
I tanked and I folded. I convinced myself that he wanted to get 3 streets out of me. And I thought that if he had a natural bluff, he would, and then there's a likelihood that I would check back the turn, and he would want me to check back the turn. So I mean, in hindsight, I think I should have called.
Did you get a reveal?
No, he would never tell anyone. I did tell him it was a painful fold, and he asked me if I had jacks. So I don't know what that means.
I mean, I think it's an exploitable fold on your part. I think you probably are supposed to call here most of the time. I actually thought that you were going to say like, oh, my combo of aces is good because I don't have the ace of clubs. And then I say sometimes people look at that not necessarily in the right play if you're trying to look at this optimally, because the ace of clubs isn't supposed to be bluffed, right? So he could have the ace of clubs, yeah, but if that one combo isn't supposed to be bluffed. But anyways, it's an interesting one. Appreciate the call. Thank you very much.